this entire area of specialization, still but sparsely followed in the profession. In some quarters, Father was reviled as a physician who preyed upon his helpless patients to advance his career as well as for more personal, prurient motives. Yet the fact remains, none of the more orthodox physicians of his time would have wished to examine Father's typical female patient, let alone attempt to cure her of her maladies. For at the Trenton Hospital, Father's patients were often indigent persons, the flotsam and jetsam of the earth, as Father called them. Though he had, for some time, a flourishing private practice in Trenton as well, among well-to-do patients, his greatest responsibilities were to the afflicted of the New Jersey State Asylum for Female Lunatics. This he believed to be a sacred trust, placed upon him by the governor of the state, the New Jersey Public Health Commission, the taxpayers of the state of New Jersey, and Providence itself, in which he never ceased to have faith. Indeed, it is a much iterated theme of Silas Weir's autobiography that he seemed to have been convinced that whatever he did, Providence was guiding his hand. The smallest tasks Father believed to be essential to his destiny. What those of us of a younger generation would likely attribute to mere chance, if not the whimsicality of fate, Father interpreted as the will of God. I will allow that salacious rumors were circulated of Silas Weir by persons who knew little of him, even among his clef in-laws, my mother's relatives, from whom I must acknowledge I have become estranged, for reasons that will become clear in this biography. So it is, testimonies from Father's cohort of physician associates have proved disappointing overall, and would make for very dull reading in any case, hagiography from his closest associates and defenders, or incensed indignation, disgust, and disapprobation from his detractors. As I do not intend to elicit testimonies from Father's relatives, from whom I am also estranged, there is a dearth of biographical material herein except for that supplied by Father himself, in excerpts from his posthumously published autobiography, The Chronicle of a Physician's Life, which I have edited for inclusion here. In the interest of full disclosure, I should note that the authenticity and accuracy of Father's autobiography have been called into question by some historians. In particular, it has been charged against Silas Weir that he much exaggerated his surgical successes and deliberately failed to record his most egregious failures, as a physician is ethically bound to do. Following a devastating fire in March 1861 in Silas Weir's laboratory in the asylum at Trenton, records of his most controversial experimentation have been lost. All that is known of these accomplishments is what Father wished to preserve in the Chronicle. What I have amassed, finally, is, I hope, a convincing and authentic portrait of my father, Silas Aloysius Weir, M.D., comprised of a chorus of witnesses, some clearly biased, and others more objective. The most unexpected, as it is the most unsparing, is Part 5. Excerpts from the best-selling memoir of Silas Weir's most renowned former patient, Brigit Agnes Keneally, provocatively titled, Lost Girl Found, An Orphan's True Story Told by Herself. Matthew Carey Publishers, 1868. Providing testimony regarding my father's practices and personality, impossible to acquire from other sources, and differing from my father's accounts in most striking ways. Thus, a document of inestimable value in the troubled history of gyno-psychiatry, in which, all too rarely, the objects of the science, i.e., females, were allowed to have a voice. That my eclectic biography is likely to be controversial, indeed scandalous, to many readers, is an inevitability which I must accept, as Silas Weir's eldest son, at once a disappointment to the man, yet his most crusading.